フロントウイング。グリザイアの果実。
Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. So, we are back with some more Fruit of Grisaia. And I'm very interested in what's going to happen today. Just as the brief recap of what had happened last time we played. Sachi went missing for a little bit. First we were having some thing where we were supposed to be quizzing her to try and see what her limits were. After going through some of it, we just said, alright, you want to meet at the same place tomorrow, like at the usual place tomorrow? She said, sure. I might be a little late though, that's what she said. We also ended up being a little bit late because we had a job kind of sprung up on us. So after our job is finished, we head right back to that classroom the next day. We're just kind of waiting for her. It's like, alright, where is she? Wait around a bit more, still not there. Head back to the dorm, look all over the school, nowhere to be found. None of the other girls had seen her. We called Chizuru to ask what to do. She tells us what to do. I'm gonna call the police, let her parents know. I want you to tell all the other girls to stay in the dorm, but I'm gonna let you, Yuji, go out and look for her. Because she trusts us alone to actually search and not get ourselves lost. We don't find her. It's now been over a day, almost, since she had gone missing. Yuji searched all night and could not find her. So we start trying to think, what would Sachi consider the usual place? Because she takes things so literally. If it wasn't the classroom we were doing everything in, what does Sachi consider the usual place? That's when Yuji kind of had an idea in his head and was just sort of going out on a hunch. So Yuji went back to his old hometown, to this old park he used to go to as a kid. And wouldn't you know it? Sachi was there. As it turns out, Sachi was a childhood friend of his that he just kind of forgot about. And the usual place to Sachi was that park where they said as kids they'd see each other and meet up every day at the usual place. Sachi kind of knew partway through after meeting us that yes, this is the friend I had in childhood, but never said anything to us. Kind of let us figure it out on our own. So yeah, we're gonna be continuing on from there. After bringing her home. She's been up for over 28 hours, so I think she's finally gone to bed. It was a ride and a half, that one. So we're going to continue on, see what happens. Loading it up. Or we might actually just be dropping her off now. Mere moments after I pick up the sound of a well-tuned V8 engine approaching, a familiar yellow, prancing horse pulls smoothly to a halt in front of my eyes. Oh my god, look, we get it! JB has a Mustang! Just say Mustang!
Omatase, Yuji.
And a split second later, the person I've been expecting emerges from the driver's seat.
もうこんな時間の呼び出しに海外意識答えるのは私ぐらいのものよ。
Yeah, I do. And I appreciate it.
うん。
When I offer a few straightforward words of thanks, JB furrows her brow. Something wrong?
皮肉を言ったつもりが真面目に返されちゃって何も言えなくなっただけよ。
My bad.
別に怒っているわけじゃないけど、この子が前に言ってたストレスを感じない子なんでしょ？
Oh yeah, and supposedly Sachi feels no stress, which is weird. As JB speaks, she holds out a single manila envelope.
しかもそれ一応部外費の資料なのよ。
Oh my god, what the hell did Sachi go through after we were gone? Right. That's why I'd ask you, Julia.
まあ頼まれて持ってくる私も私だけど。
Thanks. I owe you for this one.
なんだかユージが素直だと調子が狂うわ。
JB shrugs her shoulders as I take the documents from her hand. It's not that I don't trust Chizuru, but I prefer to get my information from a familiar, reliable source.
それから分かっているとは思うけど、その資料には先に目を通させてもらったわよ。
Yeah, not a problem.
この学園の子たちがそれぞれに問題を抱えているのは知っていたけど、その子もいろいろあったみたいね。
Yeah, all we know of Sachi was when we knew her as a kid, she was very much an energetic, outgoing tomboy. Now she's very different. And I think the implication is her parents are dead because now her aunt and uncle are the ones that are her legal guardians. Because they're the ones Chizuru ended up having to call when she went missing. So what the hell happened in, like, what is it, 10 years? I'm assuming it's like 10 years since we've seen her since. I see. I was more or less expecting JB to read the documents before handing them over. But judging from her vague language, it seems there was indeed something fairly dramatic inside.
これは純粋にあなたを知る友人として聞くけど、その子が抱える問題を知ってどうするつもりなの？
She's a friend, I guess. Yuji's just weird. He's gonna go through frickin' what's essentially a CIA contact to find out? Don't know yet, but
でも
if there's something I can do for her after reading these, I think I will. JB answers my words with a searching gaze, her expression unusually serious. I stare steadily back into her eyes. For a moment, there's silence between us.
そう。あなたがそう考えているなら、私は何も言わないわ。
You're not opposed to the idea?
私にあなたのプライベートまで奪う権利はないし、そこまで言うからにはそれなりの理由があるんでしょ？
In other words, you trust me?
そうね。これでもあなたのことはよく知ってるつもりよ。何せ私はあなたの友人であり、上司であり、保護者なんだから。
True enough. With my master and older sister dead, JB's without a doubt the foremost living authority on the subject of me.
ただ一つだけ釘を刺させてもらうけど、あなたがこれから何をするにしても、仕事は今まで通りこなしてもらうわよ。
Yeah, of course. That was the plan.
その言葉が聞けて安心したわ。今は予備役扱いとはいえ、あなたを頼りにしている人間はたくさんいるんだから。
Apparently satisfied, JB gives me a friendly thump on the shoulder as she passes by.
それじゃあ、私はそろそろ戻るわね。
Right. I appreciate the help, JB.
感謝の気持ちを表すなら、今度高級イタリアンでもご馳走してちょうだい。
Returning to her usual playful tone, JB deftly brushes a loose strand of her thick golden hair into place, then steps back into her car. Yeah, I'll make a note. As the prancing horse grows small in the distance, I mutter wryly to myself. After returning to the courtyard, I sit down on a nearby bench and examine the contents of the envelope JB handed me. At a glance, it's 6 pages filled with text, almost certainly printed from a personal computer. So now I've got my hands on Sachi's past. What's more, I managed to obtain it quietly, from a source with absolutely no connection to these events. For JB, it was probably a simple job involving nothing more challenging than a few minutes of database crawling on a neglected terminal. But this way, if and how I make use of this information is completely up to me now. We're back with Sachi suddenly? Yeah, you kind of passed out. When I open my eyes, I'm staring up at an unfamiliar ceiling. Oh yeah, she's straight up in the hospital. She needed to be in the hospital, I think. Yeah. The lights are off, and there's only faint illumination flowing in from the window. But as my eyes grow accustomed to the darkness, it doesn't take long for me to realize that I'm in a hospital.
そうか。私、公園で気を失って。
Kazumi-san must have carried me here afterward. And judging from the tuna fish man figurine standing watch at my bedside, Maki-chan and the others paid me a visit.
風見さんは、ゆうくん。
Kazumi-san and I played together as children. For a time, he was a very dear friend to me. I realized as much some time ago, but I don't believe that knowledge prompted any dramatic change inside me. Therefore, I had assumed the same was true for Kazumi-san, that he had realized the truth long ago and simply decided to keep things as they were. But in reality, he never associated me with the girl he knew back then. To him, the usual place was somewhere else entirely. The thought makes my heart ache. For some reason, when I close my eyes, I see Kazumi-san's sorrowful face looking down at me in the playground. And as I remember that moment, the vice gripping my chest grows gradually tighter.
おかしいな。私、もう悪い子じゃないはずなのに。
Bad girl anymore? Huh?
みんなの言うことを聞くいい子でいれば、ここが痛くなることもないって思ってたの。
Is it because I think it's because Kazumi... Oh yeah, he never came back the one day after they said they'd meet up. I think that's because, you know, Yuji's life ended up getting turned upside down. And Sachi blames herself for that, which... A very childlike mindset. They didn't come back because of me, I'm sure of it. Hell.
The more I think, the more sluggish I feel. It's as though a heavy weight is pressing down on my body. Thank goodness I'm alone. If someone else had been here, I'm not sure I could have been my normal self for them. After all, I'm currently incapable of something as simple as reaching over to turn on the lights. Soon enough, my physical discomfort is accompanied by a building sense of panic, inexpressible words. A horrible choking sensation crawls slowly but steadily up my throat. What the fuck is happening? As I moan incoherently, my hands reflexively clutch at the blanket draped over my body. Fuck, I can't speak. I squeeze my eyes tightly closed in an attempt to shut out reality. It's no good. The harder I try to repress the memory, the more clearly it rises to the surface. I know that it's the cause of my pain, but I simply can't escape that image. Perhaps it's because I'm weaker than usual after my long wait in the rain. Even as I wince at the first throbbing stabs of a sudden headache, an overwhelming weariness washes over my body. Just keeping my eyes open seems unbearably burdensome.
Go to sleep, Sachi. Just go back to bed.
My field of vision grows narrower as my eyelids fall halfway closed. I can faintly hear the sound of my clenched teeth rattling in my mouth. It feels as if the temperature of the room is plunged, to the point that I almost expect my breath to form white clouds before my eyes. Is she having a panic attack?
Seriously, is she having a goddamn panic attack for some reason?
I roughly gasp for air, panting like a dog, a helplessness enduring the unceasing waves of pain.
She's like, I think she's having a panic attack.
Eventually, it becomes difficult to tell whether my eyes are open or shut. And as my physical agony reaches its climax, it's joined by an unfathomable, profound sense of loss. My trembling hands creep upward, seeking reassurance that my head hasn't simply been lopped off at the neck. It's alright. That couldn't possibly have happened. I understand that rationally, but the delusion is so vivid that I can't bring myself to lower my hands. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
She has PTSD. Well, okay. So she is going through a panic attack right now.
PTSD.
Oh, fucking Christ. Let me update, Nightbot. Where is it? Oh, there we go. So I don't know the specifics, I'm just going very, very casual with it. So I'm actually gonna throw that into the title. Because I don't know the specifics yet, I will update it as I go. For now, content warning, y'all, everybody. Sachi's route contains examples and descriptions of PTSD and other childhood trauma, because I'm assuming this all happened in childhood.
As a child, when I first suffered these symptoms, the doctor who examined me dispassionately offered that diagnosis. A severe mental illness brought on by violent wounds to the mind, leading to a persistent range of stress-related impediments. I have researched the disorder and its symptoms in great detail over the years from every source I could find. Among the many symptoms, the one I truly fear is clinically referred to as recurrent involuntary memory, more commonly known as the flashback.
So, her PTSD is triggered with flashbacks. Okay, yeah. Duh. You flashback to something that caused this trauma to begin with, making you re-experience it all over again. So, we've had someone with DID, and now we have someone with PTSD. What are the other three girls gonna end up having?
If I curl my body into a tight ball like this, I can endure the pain and exhaustion somehow. The worst of the suffering is yet to come. As I begin to imagine that moment, tears flood out of my eyes, and I shake my head from side to side like a spoiled child throwing a temper tantrum.
Jesus Christ.
Lukewarm drool dribbles out of my gaping mouth as I'm racked by dry heaves. At some point, my groans give way to convulsive sobs.
Jesus Christ.
This is how it always happens. After enduring the pain, I see the dream. The memories I've tried so very hard to forget force their way into my mind. Still vivid and clear, after all this time. The profound darkness, buried deep inside by my own conscious efforts, pushes its way back to the surface. How many times have I seen this dream since that day? The mere idea of trying to count seems rather ridiculous by now. I'll never escape this nightmare, will I? Never. It'll be with me for all eternity. And the nightmare begins, as always, with two words.
Sachi.
What happened? Okay, we are flashing back.
今日の学校は楽しかったか？
Okay. We're gonna be in for something today.
The workshop was constantly filled with the clamor of industrial machines. But when I shouted out a greeting, my parents never failed to put down their work and answer. My gentle mother, who always smelled like freshly dried laundry, and my smiling father, whose face was constantly smeared with grease and oil.
Well, it's not in here.
I loved them both very much. My earliest memories, from the days before I entered elementary school, are all wonderfully happy. My dad was a metal worker and engineer for Niigata, and my mom was born into a family that operated a small precision manufacturing workshop in Kanagawa. About 20 years ago, they met at a technology fair and fell in love. Soon enough, they had started up a little factory of their own on the outskirts of this small city. I was born shortly thereafter, completing an intimate little family of 3.
あなた、どうしましょう。サチが泣き止まないわ。
Good lord.
熱もあるみたいだし、すぐに病院へ連れて行こう。
でも、夕方までに納品の仕事がまだ。
そんなのは後で頭を下げればなんとかなる。それより、サチの命の方が大事だ。
Hey, nice. They actually care. Which is great. They care. It's like, what about that order? Our daughter is sick. Take care of her first.
The orders placed at this freshly established workshop tended to be small in scale, and its track record couldn't have been called excellent, even as polite flattery. The primary cause? My parents prioritized their newborn child above all else, frequently missing important deadlines for my sake. But despite their inconsistent job performance, their character won respect and affection. Our young family was able to get by thanks to the support of others.
But then something happened.
ねえねえお母さん、お買い物一緒に行こう。
そうね。そろそろお夕飯の準備もしないといけないんだけど。
ああ、仕事の方は心配しないでいいから、2人で行ってくるといい。
すみません、あなた。
いいさ、どうせもうすぐ片付くしね。
じゃあお父さんの好きなおビールも買ってくる。
ありがとう、サチ。
Even once I got a little bigger, I still spent lots of time with my parents. Especially in the evenings, I'd always pull at Mom's hand and beg her to go shopping with me.
サチは今日何が食べたい？
卵ふりかけ。
The hell are egg bits?
ふりかけじゃなくて、ハンバーグとかすき焼きとか、もっと好きなものを言っていいのよ。
じゃあね、サメさん。
Shark? Fucking
サメ
shark.
さんはちょっと。
サメさん食べられない？
I mean, yes, you can. I mean, you can eat anything. Whether or not you should is a different story.
そうね。サチはサメが好きなのは知ってるけど、できれば別のものにしてほしいかな。
それならサチ、 タコさんウインナーがいい。
Octopus sausages. Do you just want hot dogs cut up like little octopus?
ごめんね、サチ。
どうしてお母さんが謝るの？サチ、お母さんが作ってくれる目玉焼きとタコさんが一番大好きだよ。
ありがとう。私もサチのことが大好きよ。
あらさっちゃん、今日もお母さんと一緒でいいわね。
Thinking back on it now, our household was definitely on the poor side. You could count on one hand the number of times per year a real treat of a meal graced our dinner table. My mom's cooking was always delicious anyway, and more importantly, I loved the feeling of her soft, warm hand wrapping around mine. Fortunately, the adults around us watched over our family with warm gazes and small acts of kindness.
じゃあこいつはサービスだ。
いつもすみません。
いやいや、うちも駅向こうにできたスーパーのせいで大変なんだが、お峰さんには変わらずひいきにしてもらってるからね。
ありがとうございます。
おじいさん、いつもおまけしてくれてありがとう。
お、その年でちゃんとお礼が言えれた。偉いね、さっちゃんは。よーし、それならおじさん、唐揚げ用のお肉もサービスしちゃおう。
Oh my god.
本当にすみません。
こりゃ後でかみさんに怒られちまうかもな。
あなた、今日も一日お疲れ様です。
あ、お前もお疲れ様。
お疲れ様。
Surrounded by Mom's cooking, we thanked each other for our daily labors as Dad tilted his beer glass. When the dishes in front of us were about halfway gone and the glass sat empty in front of him, Dad would always sit back in his chair and start to tell me a story.
なあ、サチ。サチはエッチングって知ってるかい？
聞いたことない。
あなた、サチはまだ5歳ですよ。今からそんなことを知っている方がおかしいわ。
そうかな。俺がサチくらいの頃には親父の仕事場に潜り込んでは勝手に機械をいじってたもんだったが。
Something happened with the machine. She wanted to be like her dad. She snuck into the workshop, tried to do something, and something happened.
だってサチ、工場の機械を触ってるよりもお人形さんと遊んでる方が楽しいもん。
やっぱりそうか。サチは女の子だもんな。
サチは大きくなったらお母さんみたいなお母さんになるの。
I'm gonna be a mommy just like mommy. Oh my god.
サチ。
おお、サチは嬉しいこと言ってくれるな。じゃあおもちゃのお人形さんを作っていたお父さんの親戚の家の話をしてあげよう。
お人形さんの話だったらサチ聞きたい。
Dad's stories are almost always connected to his job somehow. Even so, it was fun to hear about new things, and I was in awe of him knowing all that super complicated stuff. But what always impressed me more than anything else was his amazing handiness.
お父さん、この 計電池を変えても動かないの。
Did you put them in properly?
どれどれ。通電してないみたいだな。配線のハンダ付けがいい加減だったんだろう。
時計また動くようになる？
あ、これくらいならすぐに治るぞ。
お父さんす
壊れた時計くらいならお母さんの機嫌を直すより簡単さ。
Dude, don't even.
Dad loved playing with machines from a very young age, so he could repair almost anything. Because of that, the things we bought tended to last much longer than they would normally, and I always thought of him as some kind of wizard.
ねえねえ、お父さん、それ何？
ああ、これはオルゴールって言うんだ。
オルゴール？
この箱を開けるとね、音が鳴るような仕掛けになっているの。
へえ、そうなんだ。
サチはオルゴールを見るの初めてだったかしら？
それにね、なんだかすごく素敵な音がした。
あら、サチは素敵なんて言葉よく知っていたわね。
昨日見たテレビで言ってたの。
なるほど。それでサチはこの曲のことを素敵だなって思ってくれたのね。
とっても綺麗な音だった。
そう。サチがそう言ってくれるとお母さん嬉しいわ。
どうして？
このオルゴールに入っている曲はね、お父さんとお母さんの結婚式で流した思い出の曲なんだ。
結婚式？
そうね。好きな人と幸せになるためにする約束みたいなもののことよ。
幸せ。
幸せっていう字はね、サチの名前と同じ字を書くの。
そうなの？
そう。だからサチも大きくなったら好きな人と結婚してきっと幸せになれるわよ。
That's the hope for everyone's child.
そっか。じゃあサチも大きくなったらお父さんとお母さんと結婚する。
Cake on a Alabama, brother! God. Was not expecting some Alabama here.
お母さん、うちにボイスレコーダーはあったかな？
もう何言っているんですか、あなたは。
Why does the dad look pissed off?
お父さんはサチと結婚したら嬉しい？
Cake on a Alabama.
ああ、嬉しすぎてサチのことがもっともっと好きになっちゃうな。
Oh, good Christ.
そっか。
Oh, hell. That's
で
just
も
weird.
好きな人と結婚するためにはサチがもっと大きくならなくっちゃね。
サチもっと大きくなれるように
Submit!
たくさん牛乳
Hey, Nick. How's it going?
From that day forth, the sound of that music box became a familiar part of my life. The gentle melody that accompanied our family gatherings felt almost like a symbol of happiness itself. I'd always understood that Dad loved me just as much as Mom, although he was often busy with work. And since I happened to love him very much myself, I had a habit of begging him to play with me on the weekends.
I swear to fucking God, if this goes in a bad direction than I'm thinking. Please don't. Please don't.
ねえねえ、お父さん、お外に遊びに行こう。
おお、サチはいつも元気だな。
日曜日はね、外でお父さんと遊ぶ日って決めてるの。
そうか。
だからお父さんも一緒に遊ばないとダメなんだよ。
そうだな。じゃあ今日はお父さんと公園でキャッチボールをしようか。
キャッチボール？
よーし、いいぞ。そしたらここにめがけてそのボールを投げるんだ。
ボールを投げる。
おお、うまいじゃないかサチ。初めてでここまでできるなんてすごいぞ。
本
ああ、お父さんは運動ダメだったけど、そういうところはお母さんに似てくれてよかったよ。
Oh, just got a bad cough right now. Well, not bad. I'd just say more annoying than anything.
I think Dad probably wanted a boy. Not that he ever came out and admitted it, of course. But when he watched me tossing a ball around or playing soccer, his eyes were livelier than usual. Once I caught on, I started begging him to play with me even on weekdays, eager to see that happy expression on his face.
So that's why she was a tomboy. To make her dad happy.
But of course, Dad had his work to take care of, so he couldn't tag along every time. As a result, I sometimes had too much time on my hands. One particularly dull afternoon, I decided on a total whim to imitate Mom and clean the floor of the workshop. And when I did... Huh?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you over the sound of this machinery. Maybe turn it off so we can hear.
ねえ、聞いてあなた。サチが工場を掃除してくれていたのよ。
何？本当か？
ええ。あなたもこっちに来て、サチのことを褒めてあげてください。
Okay, they're really weird.
As my parents showered me in compliments, almost like the time I'd brought home the first prize for a picture I'd drawn in kindergarten, I blushed with joy. Their initial reaction was surprising enough, but after work that day, both Dad and Mom came outside to play with me.
お母さん、こっちこっち。あら、サチもいつの間にかそんなに速く走れるようになっていたのね。
それより2人とも少しは手加減してくれ。こっちの体力が持たないよ。
ダメ。今日はサチ、お母さんと一緒にお父さんをやっつけるんだもん。
な
そうね、そうしましょうか。
おいおい、勘弁してくれよ。
We laughed and played until the evening came. For one day, the machine sat silent in the workshop. In exchange, our house was filled with the resounding melody of the music box. And from that shining moment, I was left with a powerful new conviction. It makes Mommy and Daddy happy when I clean up, if I do it again, they'll play with me more. Motivated by that simple thought, I began to clean the workshop in our house whenever I had the time.
ほらお父さんお母さん、お仕事はもう終わったんだから一緒に遊ぼう。
わかったわかった。もうすぐ片付くから、せめて着替える時間くらいは待ってくれよ、サチ。
ダメだよ、早くしないと砂場が他の人に占領されちゃうんだから。もうサチったら。
And sure enough, whenever I cleaned up for them, my parents would emerge from the workshop with resigned smiles on their faces. After witnessing that same scene play out countless times, I'm sure the neighbors had me down as a slightly spoiled little tomboy. Not that I noticed at the time, so I caught up in every precious moment. Back then, my world consisted of nothing but the things before my eyes, the places my short legs could carry me. And it was more than enough. But eventually, my way of thinking did undergo a clear change. That day, a little while into my first year of elementary school, I proudly brought home my first perfect test.
すごい。本当に100点だわ。ちょっとあなた、ちゃんと聞いてます？
ああ、すまない。あまりの驚きで思わず呼吸が止まってしまっていたよ。
So her dad was happier whenever they did stuff that's considered more boyish, like playing sports, so she became a tomboy to make him happy. Cleaning up stuff on their own, getting more time to play, well, just cleaning stuff up on her own initiative made them happy, so she started to keep doing that because it was making them happy. And them seeing this 100 is going to make Sachi strive to do more perfect scores and at least attempt perfect scores on any other test because she wants to see her parents happy. Everything she's going to do is to make them happy. Make the people around her happy and smile.
いくらなんでもそれは驚きすぎですよ。
そうだよお父さん。
いやいや、決してそんなことはないぞ。お父さんも何度か100点は取ったことがあるが、算数のテストで取ったことはなかった。サチは運動神経がいいだけじゃなくて頭もいいんだな。
そうね。今日はサチが初めて100点を取ったお祝いに腕によりをかけてごちそうを作らないと。
本当？やったー！
At the time, I was a very simple person. Being praised makes me happy. When I do well on tests, Mom and Dad are really nice. And the food at dinner gets better too. In that case, I'm gonna get good scores every time. Having reached that conclusion, I shifted my efforts to my studies. I always listened carefully in school, and at home I'd voluntarily head off to my desk and pore over my books.
今度は社会科のテストで100点か。
クラスで100点を取れたのは私だけだって先生も褒めてくれたよ。
最近はうちでも勉強を頑張っているみたいだし、学期末にもらえる通知表が楽しみね。
The harder I tried, the more my parents complimented me. The more effort I put in, the wider the smiles on their faces. That was all there was to it. But simple as I was, that was more than enough to motivate me. As I focused on that clear objective, my grades soared with astonishing swiftness.
はい今日はサチが全部4以上の通知表をもらってきたお祝いよ。
手巻き寿司だ。
サチは最近頑張ってくれているからその分私たちもお返ししなくちゃね。
お返し？
そうだぞ。何かのために努力するってことは口で言うほど簡単じゃない。だからそれができたサチのことを褒めるのは当然のことなんだ。
そっか。
あ、今回はサチが頑張ったご褒美にお父さんが何でも買ってあげるぞ。
何でもなんて言ってしまっていいんですか？
たまにはいいさ。ほら、何でもいいから言ってごらん、サチ。
欲しいものはあんまりないかも。
え？
お父さんとお母さんに褒めてもらえてお寿司が食べられるならもう何もいらないよ。
サチ。
Those were my true feelings. Of course, sometimes I did look at the pretty new clothes my friends wore and feel a little envious. And I sorta wanted to visit those fancy amusement parks I talked about on TV too. But when I went home after school, Mom and Dad were always waiting. The music box played its beautiful song in the background. And the people I loved had smiles on their faces. That was more than enough for me. But those tranquil days didn't last forever. One day, word got out that Dad's family had received a contract for grinding lenses that would be used on the space shuttle, leading to media interest in a TV interview. We'd contributed to intricate metal molds that were now valuable manufacturing assets. With the sudden burst of publicity, a few major orders started trickling down to our workshop as well. Dad had always been skilled, and now he had the chance to prove it. In the blink of an eye, rumors were spreading about the high-quality precision dies our workshop produced. Before we knew it, our little branch of the business was flooded with more orders than even my parents' workshop. Than even his parents' workshop, sorry. Ugh. Whew.
This seems to be a trend. We get very long flashback to their life was happy until it wasn't.
A year or so after these events, my life had changed dramatically. Back from school, I yelled out a greeting to the workshop from force of habit, but there was no answer from Mom and Dad. Instead, I was welcomed home by the drone of industrial machines, a constant companion from morning through night. On the dining table, a gorgeous meal was waiting for me, but the clouds of steam that proved the food was freshly made were missing. The pencils I used to wear down to the nub had all been replaced with nice new pens, but I no longer heard Dad's encouraging voice at my side as I studied. I could wear all sorts of brand new clothes, but Mom didn't sew shark appliques? I've seen that one before. I've never actually heard it properly pronounced. Ever.
Leaks. YouTube, help me.
Applique.
Applique, okay, applique. Shark appliques. Oh wow, she put little, she sewed little sharks on her clothes. That's kind of cute. I like that. But she doesn't do it anymore. That's sad. They're too busy with their work.
Among all these, what hurt most was the simplest change of all. I no longer spent much time with my parents. Producing metal dies is precision manufacturing, requiring both high technical knowledge and natural skill. It was extremely difficult to find qualified new employees for such a small business. Dealing with a workload that had suddenly doubled with the same number of people as before, there was no choice but to increase working hours proportionally. The amount of time Mom and Dad spent in the house became extremely limited, and the amount of time I spent alone grew dramatically. Even so, I wanted their attention just as badly as before. Sometimes I would sit up waiting, rubbing my drowsy eyes until the machines finally fell quiet.
お疲れ様、お父さん、お母さん。
ああ、サチか。
こんな時間まで起きていたの？
どうしてもお父さんとお母さんに見てもらいたいものがあったの。
見てもらいたいもの？
ほら見て、今日は初めて理科のテストで100点を取ったんだよ。
おお、そうか。偉いな、サチは。
おめでとう、サチ。
And when I did, my parents would still listen to what I had to say. But even then, they didn't smile like before. Their faces were always lined with exhaustion, their eyes dull. I knew they were busy because Dad's family had been on TV. I just had to tough it out a little longer and things would be back to normal. I did my best to believe that. I waited as patiently as I could for my parents to get less busy. But rather than diminishing, the work kept pouring steadily in. Even after 3 months, then half a year, the situation didn't improve in the slightest. In fact, things eventually got so frantic that my parents hired a housekeeper to look after things. She cooked and took care of the laundry in Mom's place. She accepted the handouts I brought home. When there was a parents' night at school, she was the one who showed up. The housekeeper was a diligent person who took her job seriously, and she was always nice to me. But that wasn't enough. For some reason, I never felt particularly happy when the housekeeper patted my head gently and praised my achievements. So one day, taking advantage of a brief pause in the feverish activity in my parents' workshop, I rushed up to Mom and tried to show off my latest test.
ごめんね、サチ。お母さん、これから取引先の会社さんに行かないといけないの。
何時になったら帰ってくるの？
多分とても遅くなるからまた今度ね。
せっかく苦手だった国語のテストで100点を取ったのに。
Poor Sachi.
For the first time, I couldn't get her to even glance at the paper. I still remember the shock and anger I felt. Crumpling the test into a ball, I threw it into a trash can. And on the night I turned 9 years old, neither Mom nor Dad were waiting for me. Instead, I was greeted by a feast our housekeeper had prepared, and a pile of presents stacked up on the table. But I didn't have the slightest interest in the food in front of me, much less the colorfully wrapped boxes. This stuff isn't what I wanted.
Okay, props to the housekeeper for doing, something. Trying to make a nice meal for her and praising her. So obviously, Sachi wants her parents to praise her, but props to the housekeeper at least for trying their best to give this girl what she wanted.
The only thing on my mind was conveying that simple truth to my parents. And so I sat and I waited. Even when the clock ticked past 9 and our housekeeper headed home. Even when unfamiliar shows started to appear on the television, which I'd left on so I could hear the sound of human voices, I didn't budge. And a little after the hour hand of the clock crept past 11, the clamor of the machines finally came to a stop.
これで明日までには納品できるだろう。
でもすぐに次の仕事にかからないと。
そうだな。ってサチ。
もしかして私たちの仕事が終わるのを待っていてくれたの？
そうか。それは悪いことをしたな。ああ、そうだ。遅くなってしまったけど、9歳の誕生日おめでとう。
Nearly the next day, you missed her entire birthday.
おめでとう、サチ。最近、サチには寂しい思いをさせてしまったから、プレゼントも大奮発したのよ。
We spent money on you. It'll make up for us not being there. Yeah. They've gone from the parents they'll do late deliveries because their child is sick to now ignoring her.
どうしたの？サチ、お腹でも痛くなった？
よく見たら、ご飯も全然食べていないじゃないか。
いらない。プレゼントもごちそうもいらない。だから一人でステーキを食べるより機械の音が聞こえないお家でみんな一緒にカレーが食べたい。
Before I knew it, the words had slipped out of my mouth and tears were running down my cheeks. Those are the words I'd kept shut away tightly inside ever since the workshop got busy. My honest, selfish feelings. For the first time in a while, I was the spoiled little girl again. As soon as the words left my mouth, my parents' eyes opened wide with surprise. When that shock gave way to awkward, troubled expressions, I realized the mistake I'd just made. I just said something really mean to Mom and Dad. The instant I understood how selfish my words had been, my heart started to throb painfully in my chest. I stood up from the table and ran from the room, trying to escape the sudden wave of guilt.
Oh my god. Holy. Oh my god.
Dashing into my room, I buried down into the futon and cried my eyes out. I burrowed whatever words. I was angry at my parents, who couldn't spare a single night for me, even on my birthday. And I was angry at myself, being cruel to my exhausted parents, who had been forced to work by circumstances beyond their control.
They can just say no. Sorry, we want to spend time with our daughter. I'm gonna have to, not accept your contract. But no, they clearly want the money. It's good business.
Tormented by this jumbled mixture of intense emotions, I cried into my pillow until morning came. That was my 9th birthday. After that miserable day, I decided to change my way of thinking and start fresh. Maybe finally saying what I'd kept locked up inside helped. Maybe all the crying got all the poison out of my system. Either way, I found a new conviction to cling to. If what I've been doing isn't enough, I'll just have to try even harder. Not merely devoting myself to my studies, I began to actively volunteer for class representative and other student government duties. I threw myself into anything that seemed like it might put smiles on my parents' faces, even learning to play the music box song they love so much. Probably because of that broad-spirited effort, my results at school rose so high that I broke the top 10 list for our year.
Hey, Mob. What's that redeem? That redeem is I put on my Common Rider onesie. I've got to go get it. I think it's in the dryer right now. So, yeah. Hey, Mob. I'll be right back while I go and see if, it's clean. So, just give me a few minutes. And it is on. My wonderful, wonderful Kamen Rider Kigurumi. Complete with scarf and belt. This thing gets so hot so quickly. Wonderful summer attire.
Grades other than A disappeared from my report card entirely, and comments were increasingly filled with effusive praise about how I'd become an example for other students. But even then,
お父さん、今日は終業式だったから通知表もらってきたよ。
おお、もうそんな季節か。
それでね、今回は私、評価の数字が全部5だったの。
じゃあこの仕事が終わったらじっくり見せてもらうから、もう少しだけ待っててくれるか？
もういい。
あ、
in the end, nothing changed. Even when I brought home a straight A report card for the first time, Mom and Dad didn't pay attention to me like they used to.
It's adorable. Well, thank you. Yeah, I can thank some friends for this. They got it for me for Christmas. Now I bring it to every big convention I go to. Well, I mean, Anime North's the only big convention I go to, but I bring it every time now.
If the best possible results weren't good enough, it could only mean that my parents had started to hate me. Oh, Christ. That took a turn. No matter how good my grades got, it wouldn't make them start loving me again. They were probably working really hard on their job so they could get enough money to run away together.
What was that game you were playing yesterday? Yesterday, that was Hollow Cure. That was like a Hololive themed Vampire Survivors type game. 100% fan made, still technically in beta. It's free, you just download it. 100% free. It's fun, it's addicting, and it's going to be getting updates in the future, like next month, hopefully. Get more of the Hololive girls, because they only have the English branch on there right now.
The more I thought, the more dejected I felt. Why had I even bothered to try so hard all that time? Before I knew it, my legs had carried me to the neighborhood park where we'd played once together as a family.
ここは何も変わらない。
And let me guess, this is when she met Yukun. Just gonna take this quickly. Make a tea. I will make a tea. I'll just go through a little bit more of this before taking a break to get it. But I will make a tea.
真ん中にある丸いベンチもテントウムシの横にある砂場もずっと同じ。
But I might never be able to play there again. Not like I had before. I'm the saddest kid in the world, abandoned by my own parents. It was only a few moments after I'd convinced myself of this that I noticed that mysterious boy.
Oh my god. Oh my god, it's Yuji as a kid.
He wasn't doing a thing. Just sitting quietly on a swing, staring off into space. I'd always thought of the park as a place where everyone played all the time, so that motionless boy struck me as out of place. What's that kid doing over there? Only a few seconds after that first twinge of curiosity, I walked right up to him.
ねえねえ私の声聞こえてる？
I hear a cry. Ugh. Child neglect is not a great thing. She's also only 9.
だから私の声聞こえてる？それとも聞こえてない？
Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, he just doesn't have a voice. Alright, I guess I gotta speak for Yuji. Wait, why did I expect him to have a voice? He hasn't had a voice at all since this fucking game started. Alright. So I gotta speak for him still. Lazy asshole can't even speak in his own game.
If I couldn't hear you, I don't think I'd be able to answer.
ああ、そっか。そういえばそうだよね。
So, did you want something?
うん。あなたは何をしているのかが気になって。
I'm glad things are better now. Well, I wasn't doing anything, I guess. Oh my god, she's so precious! Ah! She's so precious!
Well, my sister told me that sometimes people need to spend time doing nothing at all.
Why are heads so big? Because Moe.
へえ、あなたのお姉さんって面白いこと言う人なんだね。
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
でも公園は遊具がたくさんあるところなんだから、ブランコとかジャングルジムで遊んだ方が楽しいでしょ？
Very carefully, that's how. Very carefully.
そう思わない？
Yeah, you're probably right.
じゃあ一緒に遊ぼうよ。
Huh?
私はここで遊びたいって思ってて、あなたも公園は遊ぶところだと思ってる。だったら一緒に遊ばない理由はないでしょ？
Can't argue with that logic.
ほら、行こう。
The boy looked so painfully bored that even the saddest kid in the world had forgotten to feel sorry for herself. As he blinked up at me, completely dumbfounded, I grabbed him by the hand and pulled him along after me.
What's my fave anime character all time? I have to get back to you on that one. I've never thought about it.
That was how I met Yukun.
まずは何をして。で、そうだ。
What's wrong?
あなたの名前を聞くの忘れてた。
Yeah, I guess you did.
じゃあ改めて、あなたのお名前は？
Yuji. Kazumi Yuji.
ユージくんか。じゃあこれからユウくんって呼ばせてもらうね。
Yukun. Huh?
そっちの方が呼びやすいでしょ。
What's your name then?
私の名前はサチ。小峰サチっていうの。
Sachi? Shachi? Like an orca?
ねえユウくん、パンチしていい？
Yukun sounds like a Japanese hood name. As kids, just shorten the name and add a honorific. Done. Sorry.
それから私の呼び方もユウくんが好きに決めて
We
くれていい
can't
から
call
ね。
you Shachi? Okay then. I guess I'll go with Sachan.
やっぱりさっちゃんか。
I mean, nothing else really comes to mind.
そうだよね。
After this brief exchange of introductions, we immediately got down to the business at hand.
じゃあ最初はあれからだよユウくん。
The jungle gym?
そうまずはどっちが早くてっぺんまで登れるかの勝負だからね。
Wait! Hold on a second! After deciding the event on a whim, I forcibly started the game. Yukun didn't have many suggestions himself, but when I pulled on his arm, he'd follow. Typical sub. Pretty heavy-handed, I know. Anyway, we must have been fairly evenly matched in reflexes and strength. Every game was a competitive match. I was always the winner, of course, but only by a narrow margin. That made the games much more fun, so I just kept going and going. Before I knew it, the sun had begun to sink below the horizon. Oh, I think I need to go home pretty soon.
もうそんな時間になってたんだ。
Yeah, we ended up playing a whole lot.
ごめんね遅くまで付き合わせちゃって。
That's okay. It'll be fine as long as I head straight home.
それならよかった。
Yeah.
それじゃあバイバイユウくん。
Oh my god, oh my god, you squashed my cry. Bye. Thanks for playing with me today. Kind of weird for the person who got dragged around all day to say thanks to the person who was doing the dragging. It was also odd that I thought about Yukun the whole way back home. I ended up so lost in thought that I barely touched the meal our housekeeper had made for me. Once he actually started playing, I think he enjoyed it just as much as I did. But when I was trying to think up new games, or when we stopped for a break, Yukun went right back to the expression I saw on his face at the start. Why was Yukun in that playground in the first place? It obviously wasn't to play. Maybe something bad happened at his home too. Partly out of simple curiosity, I decided I wanted to see Yukun again. The very next day, I made my way back to the playground. Oh my god, a sad boy face. It's just a sad boy. And sure enough,
He was sitting on the exact same swing with the exact same downcast look on his face.
こんにちは、ゆうくん。
Hi.
今日は最初から返事をしてくれたね。
Well, yeah. And you said hello to me again, Sachan.
だって昨日一緒に遊んだんだから私たちはもうお友達でしょ。
Yeah, he is such a sad boy. Now he's just like indifferent to everything. And misogynistic. And an asshole. Why is he our main character? Friends?
それともまだ早すぎたかな。
No. Thanks for calling me your friend. Did I say something weird?
そうじゃないけど、ゆうくんはよくありがとうって言うなと思って。
He's what you call numb. That's something else my sister told me. People who can offer thanks to others have a happier road through life than people who can't. So...
ゆうくんはお姉さんのことが好きなんだね。
Huh?
だって昨日もお姉さんの名前が出てきたから。
He's finally smiling.
I guess I did, now that you mention it.
じゃあやっぱり？
Yeah. Sometimes I don't really understand what my big sister's thinking, and sometimes she's even kinda scary. But she's normally really nice to me. I think I love her more than anyone else in my family.
Oh my god. I don't need more K-Kona! Please, no more K-Kona.
そっか。でも今度は私もゆうくんのお姉さんに賛成する。
Really?
私のお母さんも言ってたんだ。誰かによくしてもらった時はちゃんとお礼を言いなさいって。
So I guess you love your mom, Sachan? Since you brought up her advice.
そうだね。私はお母さんとお父さんのことが大好き。
They're just not there for me anymore. I sat alone all day on my 9th birthday. I'm not bitter.
Yeah, okay, I'll take the break now to get the tea. I shall be back in maybe a little over 5 minutes. And I am back. Tea is made, just cooling down right now. And I see you're doing some emote spam.
No kidding. As the conversation moved along, we slowly learned more about each other. And that was surprisingly fun in its own way.
ねえゆうくん、せっかくまた会えたんだし、今日も一緒に遊ぼうよ。
I don't mind, but is it really any fun playing with someone like me?
もちろんだよ。ゆうくんも運動は得意みたいだし、どの勝負も接戦だったから、昨日はすごく面白かったよ。
Thanks. It's nice of you to say that.
ゆうくんまたありがとうって言った。
Ah, you're right. But that was fine by me. For some reason, every time Yukun said thanks in that slightly bashful voice, I felt genuinely happy.
そういえば、ゆうくんは何歳？
Hey, Jan! That was a long childhood flashback. We're still in the flashback. Oh boy. Yeah, we're still in this flashback. I think this entire stream might just be flashback. Oh yeah, we're still here. It's still going. Yeah, we're seeing this flashback of what triggers her PTSD. Yep. So, in the current time frame, Sachi is having a panic attack because of PTSD. God damn, do I know how to pick these games or what?
I'm 10.
じゃあ、私の方が年下だったんだ。
Huh? Seriously? I was so sure it was the other way around.
じゃあ、ゆうくんは私の方が年上だと思ってたんだ。
Oh, you know, because you're more outgoing than me and actually dragging me along to do things.
I figured only someone older would be, you know, have the balls to do something like that.
I mean, you're stronger than me, and I'm a boy.
Okay, it's a child. I'll let it slide for now.
あ、ゆうくんってばひどい。私が怪力女みたいな言い方して。
Hey, She-Hulk is just as strong as Hulk, but she's also a lawyer. Okay, she did her bar exam. She's a bar-approved lawyer. It looks good wearing, you know, her suit while being 100% green with giant hair. The internalized misogyny is strong in this one. Ugh. Even at a young age, Yuji was misogynistic. Though this time, I don't think it was as intentional.
Sorry.
そんなに怒ってるわけじゃないから、謝らなくても大丈夫だよ。
Really? That's good. I'd only been trying to tease the slightly timid Yuji-kun a bit. But when he smiled with sincere relief to learn that I wasn't upset with him, I was surprised to feel my heart flutter briefly in my chest.
Oh, you meant Sachi? It's internalized if it's oppressed and marginalized group. Oh, okay. Got it. Still too hot to drink.
そういえばゆうくんはどうしてこの公園に来るようになったの？もしかして聞いたらダメなことだったかな？
No, it's okay. I just came here because I didn't want to be at home.
やっぱり家で何か嫌なことがあったの？
Not really anything bad, but I didn't want to be in the way.
邪魔？
Yeah. You might not believe it, but my sister's what they call a genius. If she just studies a little, she can win first prize at anything. That's how smart she is.
わ、すごいんだね、ゆうくんのお姉さんって。
Yeah. But lately, she hasn't been winning that many awards. At home, she's been paying more attention to me than her paintings and stuff. Dad got really angry when he noticed that. He told me, "You're useless trash, but Kazuki's actually worth something. Don't drag her down with you." So I try to stay out of the house as much as I can, to keep out of my sister's way. Sorry. Not really an interesting story, is it?
なんかじゃない。絞りかすなんかじゃない。
Uh-huh.
ひどいよ、そんなこと言うお父さん。ゆうくんは運動が得意だし、ゆうくんと一緒に遊ぶのはすごく楽しい。それなのにお姉さんの絞りかすだなんてひどすぎるよ。
Oh my god, Sachi! Sachan?
ゆうくんはゆうくんでいいんだよ。だから自分はいらない子だなんて思っちゃダメだからね。
I hadn't intended to cry. But I was really angry at Yukun's stupid dad. And the way he didn't belong in his own home reminded me so much of my own problems. It sorta got jumbled together in my mind. I couldn't help shouting that it wasn't true. That I wasn't unwanted. Sorry. Don't cry, Sachan.
私の方こそごめんね。急に泣いちゃったりして。
It's okay. Thanks for getting mad for me.
違うの、私が怒ったのは。
Because something bad happened at home, right? But that doesn't matter. You still got angry because of what my dad said.
だってゆうくんが絞りかすなんかじゃないと思ったのは本当だし。
Yeah. So, in return, I'll play anything you want today. For as long as you want.
いいの？
Uh-huh.
じゃあ公園鉄人レースでもいい？
Yeah, let's just do an Iron Man. Sure, why not? Playground Iron Man?
これを初めてやろうとした時はお父さんが腰を痛めて途中でリタイアになっちゃったんだけど、最初は砂場のお城作りから始まって10回連続逆上がりとか運転2往復なんかもあって、最後は1回転できるまでのエンドレスブランコっていうプログラムなんだよ。
That sounds a little...
じゃあゆうくんが家に帰らないといけない時間まで昨日みたいに遊ぶなら？
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
じゃあ決まりだね。
I firmly wiped the tears from my eyes, then seized Yukun's hand and set off running for the seesaw. From that moment, the day sped past in a blur. Covered in sand, the two of us explored every inch of the park, playing and playing until well past the time we had to leave. And when I finally made my way home on that second night, I discovered a clear and pleasant change inside myself. For months, the droning sound of the machines from the workshop had bothered me so much that falling asleep was always a struggle. But that day, I was snoring peacefully away the moment my head hit the pillow. Exhaustion from running around all day definitely had something to do with it. But more than anything else, I think it was because I suddenly felt so happy. In the park, where I might never again play with my family, I'd stumbled across a nice boy my age.
Nice. Not really nice in the future, 10 years or so later, or whatever. Guy's an asshole.
He was a sweet kid who said thank you at the drop of a hat, so things would definitely go well. We'd be best friends in no time. For some reason, I felt absolutely certain of that. As it turned out, my hunch was on the money. After those first few meetings, Yukun and I started playing together in the park pretty much every day. At first, we headed home quietly when the sun began to set. But after a while, we naturally started to say, "See ya tomorrow." And when one of us couldn't make it for whatever reason, we'd let the other one know in advance.
Except one day.
Sachan, what are you doing over there?
何ってゴミを拾ってるんだよ。
Yeah, but why?
だって次にこの場所で遊んだ時綺麗だった方が嬉しいでしょ。
Wow. You're so thoughtful, Sachan. I mean, lots of people might think the same thing, but that doesn't mean they'd clean up the mess themselves. And you did it without even thinking about it. You're kind of amazing.
Sachi loves to be praised. Just throw the praise on her and she'll get giddy.
Nose got something in it. Did I say something weird again?
久しぶりに褒められたからちょっとびっくりして。
You haven't?
昔はね、私が頑張ったらお父さんとお母さんが褒めてくれてたんだけど、今は仕事が忙しいみたいだから。
Okay. In that case, I guess I'll have to take over that job for now. Doesn't seem hard to find stuff to praise about you. I think even I can handle this one. That okay with you?
それはいいけど。
Okay, in that case... Good job, Sachan. With those words, Yukun brought his hand to rest on top of my head. It was far smaller than Mom's hand, let alone Dad's, and yet... In that moment, his hand felt gentler and warmer than any I'd ever known. Any other I'd known, whatever.
ありがとう、ゆうくん。
Yukun didn't just play with me. He gave me the attention I'd been craving. When I did well or tried hard, he'd compliment me right away. When I messed up or tried something risky, he'd give me a few gentle words of concern. Apparently that also had something to do with his big sister's teachings, but whatever the case, Yukun's thoughtful warnings made me almost as happy as his praise. Lately, I'd started to wonder why I was trying so hard when no one even cared enough to look. But now, Yukun was watching me. I had a new reason to do my best.
When is this all gonna go tragic? 'Cause,
それじゃあ見ててね。行くよ。
Yeah. Be careful, okay?
どう私ちゃんとできてたかな。
Yeah. You spun all the way around perfectly.
ありがとう。
That's really amazing. Not that I'm much good at horizontal bar or anything, but I've never done a forward flip even once.
そんなにすごくはないと思うけど、今日初めて成功したから最初はゆうくんに見てほしかったんだ。
Oh. Really? Thanks, Sachan.
No. Fucking kissed him? That's kind of sweet, though.
Huh?
これはいつも私と遊んでくれているお礼だよ。
Yeah. Thanks. Ooh, woo. When I tried hard at something, Yukun would always praise me. Sometimes, overflowing with happiness, I'd give him a kiss on the cheek in return. And more than once, I drove myself so hard in pursuit of some new achievement, I ended up passing out on the playground. That was how much Yukun's words meant to me. He had stepped into the gap left by my parents' absence, giving me the attention and affection they no longer would. As I grew more and more conscious of what he meant to me, my daily life was quickly transformed.
Young Yuji, I can get used to this. Oh my god. Hey, Nick.
I spent less and less time inside the house. When I got home from school, I'd head straight off to the playground. More than anything else, I looked forward to the time I could spend playing with Yukun. At home, the constant grinding of the machines and the perpetual silence of our music box was still painful. But I found I could endure them now. Not to say that I didn't interact with my parents at all.
サチは最近よく公園で遊んでるみたいね。
うん。ゆうくんってことお友達になれたから。
そうよかったわね。
うん。お母さんもお仕事頑張ってね。
When coincidence brought us together, we were able to hold slightly awkward but reasonably friendly conversations. Even so, I had stopped actively trying to regain their attention. In contrast to the steadily shrinking place my parents held in my heart, Yukun's presence grew larger and larger by the day. I wish it'd hurry up and be tomorrow so I can play with Yukun again. It didn't take long for those feelings to blossom into a faint but unmistakable love.
I'm not surprised you fell in love with this man, at least as a kid.
ね、ゆうくんは好きな人とかいるの？
Oh my god.
Like I said before, I guess my sister?
そういう好きじゃなくて結婚したい人とか。
Mary? I haven't even thought about that stuff yet. Sachan, are you thinking about it already?
私
Well, you brought it up, so I thought you were probably interested.
そっか、そうだよね。
Yeah. So, do you have someone you want to marry? No kidding. Okay then,
でもね、私と結婚するには条件があるの。
Oh my god, yes! Childhood marriage pact. Or at the very least, he'll meet her qualifications. And knowing the Sachi now, she'd probably take those incredibly seriously. You meet all the qualifications? Alright, let's get married.
Qualified?
そう、靴飛ばしで私より靴が飛ばせる人。
Shoe kicking.
Shoe kicking?
Well, I asked my parents to marry me, but oh my god. Yep. Yep. Get going to Alabama, brother.
うん、こうやってブランコに座ったままでどこまで靴を遠くに飛ばせるかっていう勝負なんだけど。
Ah, I get it.
だからね、ちょっとだけゆうくんもやってみない？
Huh? Me?
ゆうくんが私より靴を飛ばせるかちょっとだけ試してみるの。
Sounds kind of fun, I guess. Sure, I'll play.
じゃあまずは私からね。
Confident, huh? Well, it does seem like something you'd be good at, Sachan. Whoa. That went pretty far.
じゃあ次はゆうくんの番だよ。
Yeah. I'm not that confident, but... Yeah!
Okay, how far to go?
Guess I can't beat you after all, Sachan.
Well, no marriage.
I purposely went a little easy on my kick, but I still ended up beating Yukun. Every once in a while, being naturally athletic can be a curse instead of a blessing. I spent that night curled up in my bed, bitterly regretting coming up with that stupid qualification in the first place. There must have been a better way to hide my embarrassment than that. And so, time slipped steadily by, my feelings unspoken. But as my next birthday grew near, my relationship with Yukun started to change in a different way.
Okay.
それでね、その時はお父さんがお母さんのことを怒らせちゃって。で、ゆうくん？
Oh, sorry. was kind of spacing out.
もうゆうくんが私の家のこと聞きたいって言うから一生懸命お話ししたのに。
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. You couldn't always listened intently to my stories. This is the first time I could remember his attention wandering in the middle of a conversation. But my unease was relieved quickly enough. He apologized and listened to the rest of my story. I figured he must have just had something on his mind that day. And yet... Sachan, do you think there's a god?
I'm not getting into that kind of debate, Chad. I'm just gonna tell you this right now.
You know, one who knows everything. And can do anything. If there's a god that strong watching over us, even if things look really bad, it'll turn out okay in the end, right?
そうだね。私は神様を見たことがないから絶対にいるとは言えないけど、でも神頼みって言葉もあるくらいだし、神様はとっても強いんじゃないかな。
Yeah, that's gotta be right. God's gotta be really powerful.
多分。
That's what I thought too. Thanks, Sachan.
Random.
Sometimes he'd suddenly talk about God or some other weird stuff. More often, he'd sit rocking on a swing, staring off into the distance with a blank look on his face. It was the old familiar expression from the first time I met him. The expression he'd stopped making after we became friends. I had a vague idea that something must have happened at Yukun's home. But I was still just a kid, powerless to offer any real help. When Yukun asked me those questions, clearly searching for reassurance, all I could do was listen, nod, and try to hide my concern. At the same time, the blizzard of work that had buried my parents for so long was finally starting to slow down a bit. The machines weren't clattering quite as late into the night as they used to. Once or twice, I went home early to find my parents making small talk with strangers in suits. Like most kids, I did get pretty curious about what the adults were talking about. But when I eavesdropped, all I got was a whole bunch of words I didn't really understand flying back and forth. I got the idea they were talking about the machines in the workshop, but the specifics went right over my head. They're probably buying replacements for the old machines while it's not so busy. But only a few days after I reached that conclusion, our housekeeper told me she'd be leaving the job. Apparently, Mom told her she'd be able to handle the chores by herself again. It was nice that my parents were getting less busy, and that Mom would be looking after the house again, but... at the time, my mind was so full of anxious thoughts of Yukun that I couldn't manage to feel happy about anything else. Lately, he'd been showing up at the playground a lot less frequently.
ねえねえゆうくん、次は何して遊ぶ？
Sorry. I've got something I have to do today. I have to head home now.
そっか。じゃあまた明日だね。
I don't think I can come tomorrow. But I'll play with you the day after that, okay?
わかった。じゃあまた明後日だね。
Yeah, sure. Bye, Sachan. Our meetings slowly grew fewer and further between. The loneliness reminded me of the painful days when my parents had first begun ignoring me in favor of their job. Watching helplessly as Yukon trudged away, my mind churned with sadness and fear. At this rate, Yukon's gonna leave me too. I couldn't let that happen again. I couldn't let another person I loved abandon me. This time, I had to stop it somehow. The next time I saw Yukon, I decided to use my birthday as an excuse to coax him into spending more time with me. Oh, really?
だから明日は私と一緒に遊んでくれる？
Actually, I probably won't be able to play with you for a while, Sachan. A bunch of stuff happened at home. I think it's gonna get hard for me to get outside from now on.
そんな急にどうして？
Turns out, there isn't any such thing as God.
神様？
Yeah. Nobody's gonna protect me anymore. I probably won't be able to play in the park like this again.
そんな。
I'm sorry. I know I should have told you sooner, but... Sachan, you always look forward to playing with me. I didn't want to make you sad.
ゆうくん。
But vanishing suddenly without telling you would be even worse. So today... I came to say goodbye.
じゃあ、ゆうくんとはもう会えないの？
I'm gonna guess this is the time his parents and his entire family died and he moved in with his master in the mountains.
I don't know for sure, but it's definitely possible.
そんな。
And I snuck out of the house today, so I have to get back before Dad notices.
Okay, so his parents aren't dead.
ねえ、明日は私の誕生日なんだよ。
I'm sorry I can't celebrate it with you, Sachan. Okay, I'm gonna go now.
待って、ゆうくん。どうしてもう一緒に遊べないの？私そんなのやだよ。せっかく仲良くなれて、これからもっともっとゆうくんと遊べると思ったのに。それなのに、突然お別れしなきゃいけないなんて。私、明日も待ってるから。ゆうくんが来てくれるまで、絶対、いつもの場所で待ってるから。
I'll wait at the usual place no matter how long it takes. Well, we know she waited an entire day for us in the future.
As Yukon slowly walked away for the very last time, I yelled at the top of my lungs. More loudly and more desperately than I had ever had before in my entire life. But he never paused. He never turned back. Yukon's leaving me. Maybe I was right. Maybe everyone I love abandons me. Paralyzed by miserable self-pity, I couldn't even chase after him. For a long time after that abrupt farewell, I could only stand stock still at the entrance to the park, wallowing in confusion and pain. And on the morning of my 10th birthday, rubbing my red, swollen eyes as I crawled out of bed, I immediately realized that something was different. For one thing, I couldn't hear the droning of the machines that had been running from the early morning hours for months now. And for another, the smell of fresh miso soup was wafting through the air from the kitchen. Could that be Mom cooking? What about work? Still half asleep and completely nonplussed, I wandered over to the living room where an unexpected sight was waiting for me.
Ohayo, Sachi.
おはよう。
Mom and Dad were sitting next to each other on the far side of the table, almost as if they'd been waiting for me to wake up. After greeting me, they waited with gentle smiles for my answer. It almost felt like I was reliving a memory from the days before they'd become so busy. The sheer surprise was such that it took me a moment to find a response.
おはよう。
どうしたサチ？そんなに目を丸くして。
Because you're finally paying attention to your daughter. That's why. Oof, back is killing.
だって今日は機械の音がしないし、それにお父さんとお母さんがこの時間に家にいるなんて。
そうだな。自分たちのしてきたことを考えれば、サチが驚くのも無理はないか。
今までが今まででしたからね。
The two of them smiled sadly at each other, and then turned right back to me.
あのね、サチ。今日はサチの誕生日だから、お仕事はお休みにしたの。
今まで寂しい思いをさせてしまった分の汚名を返上させてもらおうと思ってな。夜になってケーキを食べながら誕生日をお祝いするまで、今日はサチと一緒に遊ぼうと決めた。
The words coming out of their mouths were exactly what I'd been longing desperately to hear for so many months. It felt so much like a dream that I very nearly pinched myself. Mom and Dad would be at my side again, like they used to be. Just like when every day was full of happiness, we could play together as a family once more. That was what I'd wanted all along. Even while I was playing with Yukun, I daydreamed countless times about this very moment. And now it was real. My parents were giving me the gentle, caring words I'd longed to hear. My heart should have been bursting with joy. And yet, what I felt instead was dark, intense anger. As though a hidden flame, long smoldering in some hidden cranny of my mind, had found the oxygen it needed to burst into a blazing wildfire. No matter how hard I tried, they completely ignored me. Why now, all of a sudden? Do they seriously think taking one day off work is gonna make me forget how sad I've been all this time? Good luck with that. Yukun took their place, but now even he's gone. So why? Why now? Why do they think they can just... Cold black bitterness spread through my body. I lifted my head to give my parents their answer.
いいよ。
Ooh. Yeah, that's... Yep.
え、別に遊んでくれなくてもいい。私は一人でも平気だし、お父さんとお母さんが大好きなお仕事を休んでもらってまで一緒にいてもらおうなんて思わない。だからそんなに私の誕生日がお祝いしたいなら2人だけでやればいいんだよ。
They ignore her for well over a year.
The instant those sulky words left my mouth, I bolted out of the living room.
サチ。
待って、サチ。
They called out to me from behind, but I just kept running. Out the door, away from the house. Not that I was headed anywhere in particular. Anywhere would be fine, as long as Mom and Dad weren't there. I didn't want to see their faces. I didn't want to hear their voices. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me, my hands clenched tightly into fists, biting my lower lip until the sickening taste of iron filled my mouth. As I fled, the only thing in my mind was anger at my parents. Looking back on it now, it wasn't much more than an irrational outburst of pent-up emotion. But still, rather than feeling happy at their promise to celebrate my birthday together, I was outraged at my parents for wrapping up all the sadness and pain I'd felt for so long into those bland words about feeling lonely. And in the end, my blind, aimless flight carried me to that familiar playground. I hadn't consciously thought about making my way here. If anything, I was intentionally trying to stay away from the area close to my home. At some point, I definitely passed a hospital much further away than this place. Even so, some unconscious part of my mind had guided me to this destination. The impact of the previous day's events must have just been that strong, or been just that strong. Words can't speak. What a shock. I couldn't simply accept that unbelievably abrupt goodbye. As Yukun left, I had screamed that I'd been waiting for him today. If I had forced a one-sided promise on him, maybe he'd slip out of his house to see me. That selfish, childish hope was still alive inside me.
今何時だろう。
Wiping sweat from my forehead, I look up at the tall clock tower nearby. It was a little past 10 in the morning. Yukun always came to the playground about 1:30 on weekends, but I decided I might as well start waiting now. That way, I'd be here even if Yukun came early. And if Mom and Dad showed up, I could always just run away again.
そうだよね。
Trying to disguise the pain and anxiety growing inside me, I forced myself to believe in this spur-of-the-moment plan. I walked over to the swing set, where the two of us had always sat side by side, and settled into my seat. The day before, I told Yukun I would wait for him in this park, but it wasn't like he promised to come play with me. he hadn't even responded to my words. There was no guarantee Yukun would come to this park. Still, I had absolute faith he'd show up eventually, and I was pretty confident I could wait patiently until then. But as the clock's hour hand made its way past the 5, and my vigil approached its 8th hour, even that childish confidence began to waver.
やっぱりダメなのかな。ゆうくんとは昨日でお別れしなきゃいけなかったのかな。
The playground that had always felt too small for us suddenly seemed an unbelievably large and empty place. Yukun had told me clear enough that he couldn't play with me anymore, that even getting outside would be difficult from now on. Could he even make it to the park if he wanted to? Having regained the ability to think rationally with the passage of time, my mind ruthlessly chipped away at my unfounded confidence. And finally, I arrived at the realization that I'd backed myself into a miserable corner. Once that timid thought passed through my mind, it was only a matter of time. The painful emotions I'd been covering up with my anger came bubbling back up to the surface. I was really mean to Mom and Dad again. They were gonna play with me, and I ruined everything. This isn't any different from last year. Even if I go home tonight, my birthday's just gonna be Mom and Dad yelling at me. With each thought, the anxiety and regret swelled up uncontrollably inside me. Before I knew it, fat tears were running down my cheeks.
お父さん、お母さん。
Kid. Poor kid.
Sachi?
When I squeezed my eyes closed to shut out the world, I saw my parents in my mind's eye, their faces gentle and kind. No matter how lonely they'd made me, and no matter how much I tried to hate them for it, in the end, I still loved them both. Very much.
Sachi!
And in the moment I finally understood, I thought I could hear those same familiar voices. Not in my memories, but somewhere nearby.
Sachi!
I raised my head with a jerk, indifferent now to the tears that continued to pour from my eyes. Outside the park, just on the other side of the road, I saw my mom and dad. Even from a distance, I could tell they were covered in sweat. But they'd been desperately searching for me. Ah. Mom and Dad are still Mom and Dad after all. The people I love most in the world. I should have known that all along. Why couldn't I have accepted them from the start? No, there was no longer any point in even thinking about it. I was wrong. Now all I had to do was apologize. All I had to do was jump into their arms and yell, "I'm sorry for being so selfish."
お父さん、お母さん。
Sachi!
Once the two of them noticed my presence, their expressions instantly melted with relief. I dashed out of the park, overwhelmed with happiness, and I heard a sudden roar of displaced air, like the sound of a fierce wind.
Oh no. That's a car. Her parents are about to get fucking run over in front of her.
In the next instant, the world before me was filled with a colossal jet black blur. I heard the sound of something colliding with something else, then screeching to a halt nearby. I had reflectively squeezed my eyes shut. When I timidly opened them, I was greeted with the unimaginable. Mom and Dad were stretched out flat on the road's surface, almost as if sleeping face down. Dad didn't even stir. A machine with a dead battery. Mom twitched convulsively again and again. A broken toy.
Oh my god, Nick.
The blood pooling under their bodies crept slowly across the orange-tinted asphalt, dyeing the road a dusky red.
何これ。
Yeah, that would definitely give you a PTSD.
Those agonized groans were totally unlike any other sound I'd ever heard my mother make. Filled me with a terror too pure and primal to express in words. My ears had begun to ring, as if to drown out the unpleasant sound of the truck's engine idling nearby. With every moment that passed, my breaths came faster and faster. I couldn't fully grasp what had just happened before my eyes. But instinctively, I understood it was something so awful as to wipe everything that had come before it into complete irrelevance. What do I do? What do I do? Right, I've got to call for help. At times like these, call 911 first. My mind was still capable of thinking about what I should do next. And yet, my body was frozen on the spot, as if physically rejecting the incomprehensible situation before me.
Sachi.
At the sound of my name, I turned my eyes back to the ground. My mother was dragging herself slowly across the road toward me, desperately trying to communicate something.
お母さん。お母さん。お母さん。
The sight instantly reduced me to a panicked frenzy. All I could do now was shriek her name. Lifting her trembling upper body ever so slightly off the ground, she slowly raised her face, and then...
サチ。どうして。
Ooh. Holy hell. Thanks, Nick. Ooh.
And then she spoke those words. In that instant, I thought I could hear something snap inside me. As my body began to quiver uncontrollably, the world was covered in a black shroud. The split second after the buzzing drone inside my head finally went silent, I lost consciousness entirely. Apparently, a local passerby quickly reported the incident, and it wasn't long before the ambulances carried us away. Not that I remember any of that. When I opened my eyes for the next time, a full day had passed, and I was lying in a colorless hospital room. Ugh.
Oh my god.
セーブしますか？
I am gonna save the rest of that for tomorrow. Because I think we might all need kind of just a little bit to process all that just happened. Holy shit. So I've gone from... Excuse me. I've gone from... What the hell, damn nose. I've gone from Michiru, who had DID, to Sachi with PTSD and an orphan. Not great. So yeah, I will be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll continue right where we just left off here and see how the rest of Sachi's flashback goes. At least now we know where the PTSD began, which is pretty bad. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, commenting, and lurking. I do appreciate it very, very much. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and I'll see you next time.